Well, what the tears I hear in your voice are the tears that I shed about 10 days ago when Brett Baer shared a personal email very much along these same lines that he had received from Charles. As you read the email, as you just read it now, you didn't know where the story was going. And it seemed hopeful. And then as he discovered to his shock the cancer had returned. And there are two lines in it when he talks about the final verdict is in, my fight is over, and finally when he says that I leave this life with no regret. It is such quintessential Charles Krauthammer. It is so graceful, it is so honest, it is so brave. There is so much to say about Charles Krauthammer. I mean, just the origins of his story at Harvard Medical School, 22 years old, jumped into a swimming pool one day, a strong, strapping man, and broke his neck. And as only Charles could tell the story, he knew that he had broken his neck because he was studying the central nervous system. In fact, the textbook was on the pool deck. And as he lay there at the bottom of the pool before somebody rescued him, he realized exactly what had happened. Now, so many of us would have crawled into a ball or been filled with self-pity. I never, in all the years I knew Charles, ever heard him express any sense of pity. Why me? He led his life fully, vibrantly. Yes, he was very badly disabled, no use of his legs, almost no use of his hands, and yet he lived a full life. He had a car outfitted so that he could drive the streets of Washington. He loved his Washington Nationals. He led a life of passion and of great consequence. I think about Charles. He went on to become a great psychiatrist. He then joined the Carter administration, and as part of the Washington conversation, then became one of the masters, first at the New Republic and Time, and eventually we were honored and graced to have him at Fox News. A couple of things about Charles. First of all, you couldn't read a Charles or listen to a Charles commentary and not learn from it and not be stunned by how gracefully and beautifully and forcefully it was written. I think the thing that I admire most about Charles, though, is that in a world in which there's a tendency to fall into tribes. You're in this camp or you're in this camp. Charles' camp was his honesty, his values, his conviction. He could be lacerating and going after the excesses of liberalism. He could be just as tough going after the betrayals of his conservatism. Charles, if you're out there, if you're watching this with your beloved wife Robin and your dear son Daniel, who I know have been such a support to you in so many ways, I want you to know that I love you. I flatter myself to consider and feel so honored to consider myself a colleague of yours. You are a great man.
Chris Wallace, thank you. So many of us are sharing those sentiments about Charles around here today. So many of us feel so blessed to have known him, to have worked with him. Chris, thank you. And Charles Krauthammer Harris won the